everybody, welcome to the GA season opener from EASA. Good that we could have so many people join us for this first discussion of the run-up to the season. We're going to start with a few introductions. So my name's John Franklin. I'm head of safety promotion here at EASA. So I'm an engineer by background, but I'm pleased that we've got some actual pilots here. I know a lot of people think when we talk to people, they're surprised that we have pilots at EASA and that we work with pilots and people from the GA community. So I'm going to ask the people who've joined me today to introduce themselves. So Vendel, I can start with you.
Okay, me first. So I'm Wendell Lynch. I work for EASA as a safety promotion officer in the safety promotion section, and I'm involved with general aviation. I'm a PPL. I have my PPL since I think 2013 or something, 2010. And I've been flying gliders as well. In the meantime, I got my instrument rating, and I'm also a flight instructor. So, in that sense, I'm doing all kinds of general aviation promotion within the EASA, and setting up the Aviators Club as well.
Fantastic, great. And Kate, maybe you could introduce yourself next.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kate Bronca. I work for GAMA, the General Aviation Manufacturers Association, as the manager for European Operations and Safety. I'm also a pilot. I have my EASA license as well as my FAA license, which gets me to fly in the US a little bit as well. And I proudly own a PA-28 based in Belgium. And that's me.
Fantastic, great you could join us. And Michael, can you introduce yourself next?
Yeah, of course. My name is Michael Erb. I'm a German and chairman of the European AOPAs. A pilot myself, got my PPL back in 1993, so I'm flying for 30 years now. I got a European PPL instrument rating and also my American license. There I got a CPL instrument rating, and yeah, that's about it. Brief description.
Fantastic, thanks. And last but not least, Yanni.
Well, we can discuss about that. Yanni Hattala from the Finnish Transport and Communications Agency, Traficom. I'm a special advisor and general aviation coordinator over there. Background in flying, my first flight was about 30 years ago. Been a flight instructor almost 30 years. Currently a flight examiner, instrument rating examiner, multi-agent class examiner, senior examiner, and most of my flying nowadays is done in a DA-42 or something like that. Thank you.
Great, thanks very much. So that's our panel, and we're here hopefully to have a really good discussion about getting ready for the season and how you get into the right mindset. We've got over 50 people now online, and the numbers climb. We've got 180 people registered. And the first thing I'd like to say to all the participants, if you go to the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx window, you should find an app called Slido that enables you to ask us questions. And what we'd love to do is get as many questions as possible. We're going to have a bit of a discussion ourselves about what we think this means for us. Maybe we might be a little bit provocative and, suggest some things you may or may not agree with. So we'd love to get your input, your questions, and hopefully make this as interactive as we can with the tools we've got available. So what I'm going to start to do just really quickly is just to talk a little bit myself about the season opener and what we're trying to do here with the session today and for the next 2-3 months and beyond. So what we're trying to do as part of our wider GA safety promotion with this concept of the Aviators Club is to really get us all together as a pilot community thinking about how we can go flying, have fun, and enjoy what we're doing as safely as possible. You know, learn, develop our skills, and be there to grow, hopefully, this community of pilots across Europe as much as possible. And to do that, as part of this kind of session, we've got a number of different weekly webinars that you'll be able to sign up and register for over the next 2-3 months. So we've got today's session, which we're going to talk about mindset and, you know, where do the rules fit in, and all of these kinds of things. Next week, our colleagues Alan and Vladimir that run the EASA GA roadmap, we're going to give you a kind of a proper EASA update, what rules are coming, what's changing, and all of that kind of stuff. Then the week after, we're going to revert to evening sessions, because we realise that, you know, particularly for most GA pilots, you know, the evening's much better. We're going to record all of the sessions and make any of the presentations and the recordings available afterwards on our Together for Safety YouTube channel. So on the 14th of March, we're going to cover addressing the top killers. So the annual safety review, what do we see from the accidents, what can we learn, all of those kinds of things. Then on the 21st of March, we're going to focus on international flying, and we've got some great panelists for that week to look at, you know, what are some of the specific challenges flying a GA aircraft across Europe and beyond. So we've got some interesting people who've really flown GA aircraft from Europe to the US and all sorts of other places. I know, in fact, Kate, Michael, you've certainly done that. I think Yanni, maybe you have as well. So there's lots of exciting things there. Then we're going to talk about training and instructors on the 28th of March. On the 6th of April, we're going to do a session on threat and error management for pilots, but particularly focusing on the challenges of, you know, in these financially challenging times, what does that mean for us as a community of pilots? You know, what can we do? What can we be wary of, and that kind of thing. And then on the 13th of April, we're going to talk about sustainability and the environmental aspects of GA, and, you know, what developments are there in technologies and things like that, and really to highlight all these fantastic developments that help make sure that, you know, GA and the fun of flying continues for the next generation and beyond. And I think, you know, everybody, I know the other panelists are equally as passionate about helping us do that. So that's a big area. And then the week after that, for those of you aware, it's the Aero Show in Friedrichshafen in the south of Germany, and certainly many of us will be there. It's the biggest, certainly the biggest GA show in Europe, and we'll be doing lots of things, events, streaming, videos, interviews and things. And then over the summer, we're going to do monthly webinars on different topics, and we'll see, you know, what kind of things people are interested in, and hopefully have some really great discussions. So that's the timetable. We'll share on the EASA social media. If you haven't discovered it already, we have the Aviators Club Facebook and the General Aviation Europe Facebook site, Facebook group, and we also have the EASA GA community. So we try and provide as much information as we can. So anyway, that's me on transmit as much hopefully as I need to, and just one kind of thing to set the scene before we really get into this discussion is, when we talk about this concept of moving from, you know, just being a pilot to being a, you know, what does it mean from being a pilot to an aviator? And we built this kind of simple model of what fun, safe flying looks like, and certainly that's around, you know, having the mindset to maximise the way we approach safe flying, learning and development. You know, considering our goals as pilots and developing the competency so we get the most out of flying, looking at our aircraft, ensuring that they're airworthy, you know, and then what apps and tools and technology can we get the most out of, again, just to enjoy whatever it is we're trying to do. And then on the right side there, you know, looking at what are the different flight scenarios do we do as pilots? Do we do local flights, international flights, you know, in challenging weather, and there's all sorts of different situations that pilots encounter, and how can we share experiences and learn from that from each other, and then what risks might we face and how can we manage those, and then most importantly, how can we continually learn and improve and bring all of that together so that we just enjoy as much flying as we possibly can. So in order to kind of start this discussion, I'm going to throw the first kind of question out there to our panelists. And we thought one of the key things is to start questioning as individuals, what kind of pilot am I? What types of pilot are there, and how can we improve? Any of our panelists, who wants to go first on that one? Yanni, do you want to go first?
Well, I
What's
thought
the,
that.
what's the right pilot mindset for you?
Well, I think if we start to think about the core values over there is commitment to lifelong learning. That you need to strive to be as good a pilot as you can all the time. Complacency kills, and it's especially true in this field. So that's where I would start. That an aviator looks for new information, is honest to himself or herself, and to the community where they work or exercise their hobby, and does not rest on their laurels or past achievements. The older I get and better I was doesn't really work when you face real challenges.
And it's interesting, we've talked about that a lot, both in the preparation for this and even just in the different GA meetings that we have, things that different people in the group, now some of us are perhaps older and wiser and slightly greyer, thinking of things we might have done when we were younger, and things we might not do now we have the chance. Vendel, maybe what about from your side? What have you learned? What do you think is important in terms of preparation and mindset?
Well, there's obviously there's a lot. I mean, when I think it's like, what's yeah, of course I agree with Yanni that it's about learning. Is what if I talk about myself, one of the things that since I've been flying is one of the things that I am constantly confronted with is that I've never had the perfect flight. I'm constantly striving to have the perfect flight, to have everything in the right, to do things right. Trying to be as good as I can be, and then at the same time understanding that there's so much to learn. The more I do, the more I understand that flying is both fun. I mean, I love to fly, but it's a big challenge to really master it, because it's always almost in every flight I have this like one thing or two things that I could have done better, or I failed that, or I forgot this item on the checklist, or my landings were not good, or I missed.
Oh, I think we have a Vendel pause there. Can everybody else hopefully can still hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Michael, maybe if I come to you next, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, as Yanni said, it's lifelong learning, and the specialty in general aviation is that unlike the airlines, where pilots are being taken care of by the airline, where there is safety pilots, there is a higher hierarchy pilots that take care of pilots and assess them and tell them what their strengths and weaknesses are and give them special training to improve. As individuals flying in general aviation, we don't have that. So we've got to take over responsibility for our own flying. And as Vendel said it, there's nothing like a perfect flight, but as long as we realize that we're making mistakes, and as long as we're trying to improve, then I think we are becoming better and safer pilots. And also, it's great if people are taking more and more steps and are flying with flight instructors, that they are getting an instrument rating, or doing aerobatics rating, or do float plane rating, fly to foreign countries and have fun, do train, and then I can have fun and fly safely in combination. And for me, flying and enjoying it doesn't work if I feel unsafe. And,
I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's the enjoyment of, you know, pushing yourself and learning new things and, you know, continually improving. And I think maybe, Kate, if I come to you, because I know you've had experience flying various different aircraft in quite a few exciting places. You know, what do you find in terms of, you know, mindset and culture and all of that kind of stuff when it comes to being a pilot?
So I think first of all I have to be extremely humble, and I think that humility will definitely save my life multiple times. I have a PPL, and my goal is always to try to nourish that PPL with experience. So I tend to fly on different aircraft whenever someone suggests to me, like, do you want to go fly with me? If I know that person well enough, I will enjoy that flight and learn how another aircraft will work, but also how another pilot might fly. If usually I would say two to three times a year, I will fly with an instructor. I do not pretend to fly enough, so my only way of making sure my safety is not at risk is to trust an instructor. And I'm very lucky that I get along very well with my instructor. So we just go for a flight, and sometimes we go for a long navigation. We would go like for a 3 hours navigation, just like, so we prep and we change countries, or we just go for a small 1 hour and we just do exercises. So I think I would definitely put my safety is definitely depending on my humility and my capacity of understanding that I am not invincible. Yeah. So that's how I would say. And also, I'm the only non-instructor in this panel. So
That's true. I forgot about that.
so yeah, yay instructors.
They're all great.
Well, even
But it's a good point, Kate.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good point, Kate. Yeah, it's a good point, Kate. You brought up about flying with an instructor, because holding a mirror up to yourself is very important, because it's the easiest person to deceive is ourselves. I was off aviation for a few years, quite a while ago, and when I got back into it, it was really shocking to find out how out of it I was, even though I already had thousands of flight hours at that point. So it's really important to have the sounding board of somebody other than yourself to be properly aware where are you at any given moment.
You know, if you look at for the French speakers in this conversation, the latest magazine Aviation Pilote published something about flying, like restarting the season, and I want to quote them because I thought it was an amazing article on the subject. And they were also saying in the US you have to do a biannual with an instructor. You have to do it. And I think that's an attitude that we have to have as a pilot. It's to trust that an instructor will help us make sure that our skills are still at point, and that our behavior is still safe. And I think that that's a really good part of the US training.
It's yeah. I mean, maybe it's also a bit well, and the things that I've learned, but maybe it's a bit of flight instructor. But as a flight instructor, yeah, I've experienced now in Europe and in Germany some people who I fly with almost have almost fear the flight instructor. Is like, once you have your license, well, hey, you fly with a flight instructor, you get your PPL, your buddies with your flight instructor. But once you have your PPL, you're on your own, and you go. And when you have to now go back to a flight instructor, because you want to go to another aircraft or do your biannual, it's almost like, ooh, I don't want to be with this guy because I want to fly myself now.
Really?
So that's, well, yeah, that's kind of interesting. Where I see people like, nah, this guy is just gonna mess around, and he's gonna critique me, and he's gonna say like, I don't fight it well, or all those kind of things. But I think it's really part of the even I myself, part of being open to say like, okay, well, knowing you're not perfect, and you need somebody else to actually point to those areas where you can indeed improve, because the whole experience as a pilot, and growing as a pilot is about but it's about growing, and it's about learning to adapt your weaknesses, maybe.
And it's much nicer to learn from other people's mistakes than from your own. And instructors know a lot of other people's mistakes, so they can help you along with that.
And I think that's one of the things, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
about making that normal, is that learning and the process of spending time with an instructor, something that more people feel comfortable with being able to do, because it's just normal part of being a pilot. It's been, somebody said, am I in a self-help group here? Can we get to the point, or is that the real point?
That is the point.
Max, thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's interesting. We said we asked people to be controversial, so that's I don't say that's controversial, but I think that's a really interesting one. And maybe I'll just quickly say I started a little poll just saying, in one word, what does it mean to be a pilot? So if you haven't already, just drop some words in. It'd be good just to see, get a flavour for the things people are thinking. And it's interesting. A lot of people are talking about words like conspicuity, avoidance, electronic, conflict, devices. It's interesting that I presume potentially it depends on where you fly, but the fear that the fear that, or not fear, but the risk of airborne collision and conflict and conspicuity, or conspicuity being a continual challenge that we have to solve, I think, as a community, because there's lots of different ways to do that. But maybe if we move the discussion on slightly and start coming to the point, so Max doesn't leave us, is one of the discussions we've had, and Yanni, I'm going to come to you first on this question, is about the rules that we have. Sometimes people see rules as something that's just there to get in the way of our flying. Some people see it as, in lots of different ways. What's your thoughts on that? I know you have a really good opinion on
Well, we'll see how Max likes this. Sorry to pick on you. My argument is that the regulations are the bedrock of safety, that we are building this whole creation that we are in. They're written in blood. They condense over a century of learning. And if we talk about current EASA regulations, of course, they're not perfect, as nothing man-made is. But in my opinion, the problems within those are mistakes, not misplaced aims as such. And mistakes can be fixed when they're identified. It sometimes takes some time. But I would like to emphasize, for example, of the accident statistics that we have in Finland, that it's quite clear that, especially with the general aviation, we did a risk survey study on recreational aviation and general aviation. Basically, recreational aviation was more of a microlights and gliding, and general aviation was the traditional as licensed aviation. And almost all the fatal accidents in general aviation were clear cases of violations. So somebody breaking known rules and knowingly breaking those rules. So there's actually a study a long time ago in the United States, also a little bit reliant on this one. I'll get back to that a little bit afterwards. The key is that if you comply with the regulations, you are much more likely not to get into a serious accident. If you go outside that form, then the situation changes dramatically. And also, when I run into this attitude sometimes, but that it's not important. Regulations are not important. It's important how you handle the aircraft. I'd say that, for example, commercial air transport, that is safer than anything these days. The pilots aren't better in stick and rudder skills now that they were 50 years ago. They're most likely a bit worse than back in those days. But the safety has increased dramatically because of the rules and regulations-based development that we've done over all these years. And the study that I was referring to earlier was a study about motorcycling and general aviation in the United States, which stated that they are both pretty much as equally as dangerous hobbies. But there was a huge difference between those fatal accidents about who was at fault or where was the root cause for the fatal accident. In motorcycling, it was like 75% was instigated by outside factors, other road users, road conditions, and such. But in general aviation, 75% were the root cause was at the actions of the pilot in command. So if you are a responsible operator who tries to do their best, you have a huge, your actions will have a huge effect on the safety level in this hobby. Rant over for now.
No, I think that's good. Kate, maybe I could come to you next on this one. What do you think? You know, particularly, I know you work a lot with the manufacturers and quite a diverse group of people. How do they see it, and how do you see it in terms of the way the rules work, and particularly from a pilot perspective, is it easy to understand what you have to do and what the basics are and should be?
So I think rules are definitely made to improve safety. That's no doubt about that. And I think it's really important for all of us to get involved in it. I mean, Michael and I, we work a lot with EASA in working groups and trying to understand how to improve safety every day in Europe. And so I truly believe it makes sense, and I truly believe those rules are important. But also, following a survey that we do every year with IOP and Gamma, we do see a lot of people are getting frustrated whenever a rule is not easy to apply, or they don't understand why that rule exists, because sometimes the majority will not fit to the minority, if I can say that. And so you get frustration regarding those rules. And that's where I think the whole communication intervenes, and we need to be able to communicate as much as we can on the reasons why those rules exist, and also we need to continue being flexible and understand. And I think we've seen some rules getting modified because it wasn't fit exactly to what it should be. So I think Europe is known for that flexibility, but still work in progress. Yeah, I think that's my opinion on it.
And I think that, so if it helps, so I put a little poll on the Slido asking people if they think rules are too hard to understand. So at the moment, 75% say no and 75% say yes. So we've only got 4 votes, so it's not like it's telling us everything. And we've also got a comment from Christian there that says, indeed, you can't rate rules specifically. Some things, it depends on the situation. And maybe, Michael, if I come to you next, obviously you spent an awful lot of time in your role at AOPA, and particularly with the GA roadmap over the last 7-8 years and beyond that, kind of shaping and trying to improve things, and certainly helping. All of you have helped to be at the forefront of shaping the relationship change between EASA and regulators in general and the GA community. What's your view on the way the rules have evolved, and what that actually means for GA pilots day to day?
I've got to say, one day we were quite surprised to see that EASA has taken over the slogan for the GA roadmap: lighter, simpler, better rules for general aviation. And we saw that first, then we reacted and said, hey, that was what we wanted from EASA for so many years, and now they've stolen our slogan. And do they mean it serious? And yes, indeed, I think EASA means it serious. And if we do a comparison about how accessible licenses were some years ago before the GA roadmap, how difficult it was to receive an instrument rating, for example, things have made great progress. Also, the LAPL was invented, just to give another example, and it's been, yeah, indeed, become lighter, but not necessarily simpler. Some of the rules, I've got to say, they are quite complex. And I'd like to come back to what Yanni said. Of course, we do need regulations, and they're very important, like how aircraft are being certified, how they are maintained. The rules of the air are important, but for me, when I go flying, to be a little bit provocative, I don't care about the legal minima, because if I've got 1 hour to fly and I've got a tank I can fill up for like 4 hours endurance, I don't calculate what the minimum fuel requirement is. I feel safe if I want to go flying for 1 hour, if I've got 3 hours of fuel in the tank. And I don't care too much about the VFR minima in airspace golf, which would legally allow me to fly with 1,500 meters in front of me. No, especially if I want to fly with my family. I look out of the window. I never can really measure how far away a cloud is. And the weather is either okay, it's no go, or it's something, I don't know, in between. And here it depends on the responsibility of all of us, and to make our own judgment. Do I feel comfortable in the weather conditions that I have? And do I feel comfortable just having 10 minutes more fuel than the EASA requirement? Or is it more comfortable to have fuel on board for another hour? And that's where airmanship starts, and where the rule makers, yeah,
Yeah,
can't really help you.
Yeah, but that's a good point. Basically, that's like I said, that's the bedrock. That's the minimum.
Yeah.
When we have personal minimums on top of those, that's a completely different thing. And of course, those vary from day to day, and your recency and your feeling and your cargo, as you said. I mean, if you have your family with you, my minimums are much higher in that case also.
Yeah.
If they dare to come to fly with me.
And my instrument rating would allow me to go down to 200 feet decision height. And that's something, as a pilot who is not flying as often as he would like to do, that's not really what I'm aiming for. I know I can do it, but it's something that I don't want to do too often.
Yeah, I think, yeah, of course, I agree with you on that, Michael, because I also see and I find that rules should be also seen or considered as a foundation. And by the way, not all rules in that sense. I personally find in my flying, if I want to fly, are sometimes restrictive, and I don't, as a pilot, don't understand why they are there. Even if I work for EASA, I'm like, yeah, what, trying to restrict people, not understanding why it's there, and feeling restricted by the authorities to actually do and enjoy flying. But when it comes to safety rules, right? When it comes to it's really about a minimum where we should be able to build upon and go beyond, because in the end it's our responsibility as well. So yeah, I agree that we should go beyond the rules. So just complying to the rules doesn't necessarily makes us safe. Indeed, if I can fly with the VFR minima, but that doesn't mean that it will be a safe flight or will be a comfortable flight. So there is some action on us to build upon if we want to be better as aviators as well.
But then I would still go back, if I may, on that it's the bedrock of safety where you build upon the process. So that forms the basis, and that is the condensed learning that has gone over the century over there. But of course, everything goes beyond that, and also I don't want anybody to mistake that compliance alone guarantees safety, because that's the minimum. And you see that sometimes with flight operators that say that, well, we comply with the regulation, but they try to read it, as a saying, as the devil would read the Bible.
Yeah.
And without complying with the spirit or the ends of the regulation, for example. And that's when you can really get into trouble. So that goes into the first discussion in our self-help group about the values and what kind of pilots we are. And that's the values as an aviator that you have are the most critical thing. And after that, you build on those values, on those minimums that the regulations or the training that you received set you upon.
And one thing is interesting, it just popped up, is that, I don't think that there is any example elsewhere, but we in aviation have this exemption, right? If it's about safety and it's about our life, we have the prerogative to divert from the rules, right? So there is this way to say, like, even if there's rules, but if it comes to, if I have a mayday, if I have an emergency, I can land anywhere, I can do anything I need to save my life and save the life of my passenger. So that's an interesting bit, because it's also about, in the end, I think we need to also understand the objective. I mean, this is what EASA is trying to also get into into their rules. Objectives, rules is what do we actually want to achieve? It's not about being descriptive, but it's about what is the end goal? What do we want? And maybe we go with left, we go right, we go straight through the middle, but it's about the end goal and not about what we actually do and how we do it.
It's
So
interesting.
anyways,
Sorry, who's that? Sorry.
I was just trying to say, Wendell, I agree with you that like the safety is going to come first, and we're going to do what we need to do to be safe. But also, we have so many examples where pilots took those decisions, and now they're like in like lawsuits, incredible lawsuits with a lot of money. And we talk a lot about it with Michael, because we try to see how we can support, especially Michael and IOPA, where sometimes like pilots had to take decisions and they did it for safety, but they had to break a rule or a border or some sort of regulations, and sometimes it does backfire pretty hard on you. So those heavy regulations can also sometimes affect, and I know I'm being controversial, but I must say it, because sometimes it also backfires on the pilot and its impression of the regulation as well.
Okay. Well, if I can, sorry, John, I'll still stop on this. Just a top tip. We've had scenarios where there has been a court case based on what pilot did in order to save a flight and actually save lives. And when these go into civilian courts that do not have expertise in aviation, having a national authority, for example, represent and explain them what is required in aviation and stuff like that can be a huge help. And in these court cases, we've actually helped the court to make the correct decision and to exonerate the pilot who by taking action saved lives. So first of all, save yourselves. Let's worry about the court case later, and ask for help from your national authority or your associations like IOPA and GAMA and so forth.
I think that's a key piece of really practical advice to pilots generally, and actually it links. There's a question here from Misha, says, regarding regulations, may regulations from your point of view also be harmful for flying, hindering people to learn to fly because the rules get over-regulated and not follow common sense? And I think actually that's very much what the whole GA roadmap's been about, is to focus on the common sense element. Like you say, the common sense says, save your life and worry about the court case later. There are so many examples of things in aviation, particularly in GA, where the focus is, okay, let's figure out the common sense bit. And then, there's been a lot of changes in the system. And I think that's partly on us. It's partly why I asked the question about whether rules were easy to understand. And the more conversations like this really hopefully help to open up the difference between perception, what pilots think the rules say and do, and the reality. And you know, I know quite often when I speak to people, I know always when we're at Aero, it always surprises people, even the fact that EASA has actual pilots and people who are, you know, fly GA aircraft just like they do, takes people by surprise at a basic level. But there's so many examples like that we find. So maybe we move the discussion on to the next bit, and hopefully, you know, we go less from self-help group to providing some more real useful tools and advice for the participants that we have, and particularly around getting ready for the season ahead. And you know, some people might not have flown so much over the winter. And what would each of you think, maybe if I come, Michael, to you first, what would be your advice to pilots, you know, as we're starting to ramp up our flying for the season, and how can we get ready? What does that look like, both in terms of mindset and skills and knowledge and all of these other things?
That's exactly the challenge I'm facing right now. I didn't fly for a while. Weather was not so good, and family issues and so on. You all know that. And yeah, I'll soon have my first flight after the winter break. I'll take a good friend, a flight instructor, along. I'll get myself prepared. I got a flight simulator in my basement, and I'm flying when the family is already in bed like a maniac. And it helps, and it's fun, and there is exactly the aircraft I'm flying on the flight simulator, and you find yourself in the cockpit there. Flying behavior is not exactly 100% like in the real aircraft. But it's great. I can sit there, I can use the checklist, I can have my little navigation app on a tablet on my knee, and it shows me where I am, and I can train all the procedures, and I can identify the VFR waypoints. I've got the actual data map on the GPS, and so I'm sure that the first flight I'm going to have will not be that bad, and but I'll have to wait what my pilot friend, flight instructor, will tell me afterwards. And also our associations, we are doing training seminars starting at spring. So if somebody feels like yeah, it's necessary to do some refreshers with flight instructors, we are doing that. Many other associations are doing that. Or if you go to your flight school nearby and say, hey, do you have a flight instructor who wants to fly with me? All that helps a lot, and it's fun.
Yeah, I think there are so many good tips there, and actually it links also to some of the things we're collectively doing. I know you saying about flying clubs and the seminars you're running. Vendel joined your session that AOPA had in Luxembourg. In fact, tomorrow he's then driving down to the AOPA Switzerland event. Yanni, you're having an event also in Finland. I know, you know, all over Europe there are lots of events. So particularly if any of you are having events that you like our support and involvement in, we can't get to everywhere, but certainly if you need any support and information or any tools or presentations, things that might help you, please either drop us a message in the chat or join the Facebook group and drop us a message through that, or email anytime safetypromotion at easa.europa.eu. I'll write that in the chat in case anybody needs that. Vendel, maybe I come to you next. What are your kind of preparing for the season tips from your side? Oh, can you hear us? I think Vendel's got another tech problem. Kate, can I come to you then next?
Yeah, I'm happy to, well, everything that Michael said, like, amen, definitely. But also I would add something that I do very meticulously, particularly on when I start flying back after a few weeks without flying. It's the inspection of my aircraft. I will do this like very slowly and make sure I get every trace of, if I see a liquid, or if I see like we know our colors, like the red liquids for brakes, or like the oil that I'm gonna check. I'm just gonna make sure that everything is in place, because the plane hasn't been flying for like that. And I think it's very important to do that all the time. But the first one that I will do, I will make sure I'll make sure I can trust my aircraft whenever I fly with the instructor or the experienced friend. But definitely, I think that's the additional thing that I would say. That inspection is very important.
Yeah, and actually, we did. Thomas Hutton from Norway, that we work a lot with, did a great video on that. That I'll drop in the link to the chat to that in a second. Maybe Vendel, are you back online now? Is it working?
I hope so.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Well, yeah, I was thinking, yeah, for me flying, getting ready for the next season is for me it's more of indeed a mindset. It's because flying for me is more to do with being in the game, being mindful, being ready. It's more of a brain game for me than it's a skills game in that sense, because I found that even if you haven't flown for a while, you might be rusty in the techniques, but you will not really forget to fly. It's not the same as riding a bike, but it's the flying feeling will come back very quickly. But how, at least this is my experience. But the mental preparation, to understand what flying is all about. Being prepared for all the eventualities, the emergencies or the weather, or how you prepare your flight. That is something that it takes time to get back into, and be mentally prepared for the flight and for your flying season again. So my preparation is really about about that, and indeed using the flight simulator, getting back into the habits of using the checklist, reviewing my emergency procedures, reviewing the POH of the aircraft I'm going to fly again, to get it back into the frontal cortex again, like ready to use. And then getting back into the plane is the first flight with a flight instructor, with a friend, and feeling a bit rusty, but then in the end, knowing that after 2-3 flights, it will get back to you. So yeah, that's a little bit my take and how I see it. It's a mental game, in the first hand.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Maybe Yanni, I can come to you next. What are your thoughts on this in terms of how to get ready?
If you're not in a club or an association, get into one. If you know somebody who is not in the club or involved with an association, get them to join. If I mangle a little bit of some phrases, it takes a village to raise a pilot. And we have clear statistical information about likely how being in a part of an aero club or association, getting all the advice and support from them reduces your accident risk clearly. So I think the clubs, at least I can say for the clubs in Finland, are doing a great job in promoting safety, promoting processes and procedures, how to increase safety, and so join them, get others to join, be involved in motion. I think that's the best, the most effective way you can prepare for the new season. And Michael, say thank you.
That's great, and I think there's it's interesting just to see the different comments and questions. Where we've got a few comments and questions. So Alexander said, as a pilot in oh sorry, just got lost it there. There we go. As a human factor TKI in a pilot school, he's teaching students to always follow the rules because they're always right. Kind of exclamation mark. And I think that's an interesting one, isn't it? I guess is people's perception as to whether rules are right or wrong. I think maybe that's something we could get better at, is explaining even the historic background to certain rules, so people understand where they came from. Like you said earlier, Yanni, about a lot of this is written in the blood of other people, and explaining, maybe that's something we could think about doing more of in our safety promotion in the future. Oh, we've got a more specific question from Christian here. Is there a final ruling whether a second profession pilot, however without flight instructor or CRI privileges, may be taken as kind of a monitoring pilot on a flight after a longer break period? Not challenging the 90-day rule in general, but a monitoring pilot is not a passenger.
I think each member state will have a different interpretation of that one, but as far as I would understand, they still wouldn't be a crew member because it's a single pilot aircraft, and there's not a formal role in that sense for them, unfortunately. There has been discussion about this before, and I fully understand where Christian is coming from with this question and what benefits it might have, but I just suggest that take the first flight with an instructor and be done with it.
Yeah.
And if I can advise, if it's for the landing fees, it's crew. Definitely crew. Just saying.
Yeah.
That's
But-
good advice.
You were going to say, Wendell?
No, I was thinking is the indeed there you can have indeed where you see that rules and regulations versus common sense is sometimes a bit clashing again, and this is indeed where I also as a EASA, and as a pilot, I'm a consumer of my own of my own system. Because I totally understand Christian, because the 90-day rules is really about carrying passengers. So if you're out of 90 days, that basically means you can go up and fly alone and do your 3 landings and be ready to fly with passengers again. But it is common sense and safer, yes, to take an instructor with you. But if your pilot friend is also very proficient, in that sense, what would common sense say about safety, right? And now the rules and regulations don't cater for that situation, and this is where
Almost like the rules go against what we're almost advocating here.
I'm striving
is
at
somebody. If you don't have access to an instructor easily, you can't take a passenger in theory if it's been a long time.
But I have to say, I have an experience where this has led into a problem because two students went to a flight in a flight school that I used to be head of training, and it was a flight that didn't have any kind of multi-pilot operations procedures for that. So they end up into a dangerous situation when each one of them assumed that the other person had done something in an aircraft. So it also opens up new possibilities for errors and that can lead to accidents. So if you are operating actually multi-pilot, that you should have procedures.
But I think.
Go on, Ben.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely, Yadi. But this is exactly what I totally agree. But that is not only in this case when it's 90 days, but it's also when, I'm totally proficient and go flying, in the season with my buddy pilot. So this is part of the things that, one of the things that I'm talking about in my safety talks is that even for us in general aviation, if we do hobby flying, recreational flying, part of the elements of professional flying or commercial flying about multi-crew, we should really talk about it, and we should be prepared, who, and actually agree on who is pilot in command, and task divisions, who's handling the radio, all those kind of things. We should really talk and brief our flight with a fellow pilot, a pilot friend sitting next to us as well. And that's part of, like I said, is like on top of the regulations, on top of, and we don't need the regulations to regulate that in GA. We just need our common sense to actually do it, and be aware of that. It's good practice to have this briefing. And that's part of safety promotion. It's part of us talking about it, but part of us making it aware to our fellow community pilots and aviators all around that it would be good practice to do it. And I would advocate to basically do it. So one of the things, if I may, I'm still standing on my soapbox, is one of the things is I'm trying really to see what good practices, like you said before, the commercial operations is showing a good safety record. So what are the good things coming from there, right? So that's, standard operating procedures, is multi-crew operations, how they do that, briefings, takeoff briefings, emergency briefing. These are good things that we should be also including in our general aviation kind of flying, because that has proven to be successful. And if we integrate that, we are on the right step to also be better in that sense.
So there's a question from Robin here about, is there a white paper about multi-pilot operations in single-pilot aircraft? I've not seen anything specifically, but I think this is part of the wider conversation, is what does it mean if you happen to have if you take two pilots in a single-pilot aircraft, how do you have the right conversations in advance? And we've only got a couple of minutes left, so I'm going to try and bring this to a close, start bringing it to a close. Actually, Yanni made a good point in the chat there, is proportional SMS is a very good tool for aero clubs. And kind of that SMS is very much my background. And one of the big things we talk about, a really fundamental level of safety management, is, really, do you know what the stuff that might kill you is? And how do you then guard against the things that might kill you? At a really, really basic level, is that simple understanding is really good. And hopefully, this is all part of an ongoing discussion. And I keep referring to the safety map we showed at the beginning. It's interesting, while we've gone through different parts of the discussion here, it's been great to, when I come back to that map, I realise we're orientating ourselves around the different parts of that map. So maybe I just come to each of you for a last, literally just if there's, on the fun side now, one thing quickly, maybe 10-15 seconds that you're each looking forward to this season. Vendel, you're on my screen. Do you want to go first? What's the thing? What are you looking forward to the most this summer for your flying?
In my flying, I'm really excited. I really want to get my aerobatics rating this year, so I'm really excited, and I cannot wait to start. So this is something I hope everybody has his ambition and wish to do for this year. But yeah, flying upside down in an extra is something I'm really excited about.
And we're equally excited about Vendel coming back to the office, making us all feel really jealous about it every day. So that's even more fun for us. Michael, I come to you next. What are you looking forward to this summer the most?
Well, I'm looking forward to organizing a flyout to the Swedish island of Gotland this summer, and we'll have 25 participating aircraft. That will be great, but well, if I hear what Wendell is going to do with flying aerobatic aircraft, I think we already have the perfect haircut for it. So if we are flying upside down, nobody will find out. And there will be many other interesting things. But maybe, Wendell, you tell me about your aerobatic flying.
I will.
We'll have lots of sharing of experiences, I'm sure. Kate, maybe what about you? What are you looking forward to?
Well, first week of August, I'm getting my seaplane rating in Minnesota in the US. So very, very excited about that. And the state of Lake is going to be amazing.
We're just ticking up the cool here. And then, Yanni, last but not least, what about you? What are you looking forward to?
I'm with Kate. I've flown for a living only for past 2 decades, but I might now break my rule and get a recreational rating. And my friend is being badgering me about the seaplane rating. I live in the country of 1,000 lakes, so it would be most sensible solution.
We can make a follow-up to the seaplane video you made before. Excellent.
No.
That one.
Oh, yeah.
That's the one. Excellent. Well, thanks very much to everybody who joined. Huge thanks to the panelists for a great discussion. We'll put it online and post it on the YouTube, etc. a bit later on. And yeah, thanks very much. And don't forget to join us next week for our GA roadmap update from our colleagues from the roadmap team. Thanks very much, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks again.